Well, hello everybody, this is Danny from Deep South Homestead. Yep, on porch time today, but we're not on the porch, we're in the cabin. And technically, I'm going to be honest with you right now, it is 45 degrees in here. It is quite chilly. I didn't realize that when I came over. The wind is blowing ferociously outside. It's just no way I can sit outside and do a video. The wind is it's just no way possible. And I did not dress for this. But, guys, the weather's not too bad right now. I mean, it's cold, but it's not unbearably cold. And I guess the thing about it is after a period of time, you get acclimated to it. And I can understand why people up north kind of laugh at people down south, is because down here we go from hot to cold, hot to cold. I mean, it's up, down, you know, and we never get used to it being cold. But this time, it's been cold and it has stayed cold. We actually have had a fire going in our heater now. I think now it's like day 8 or 9, 10. Okay, about day 10, that we hadn't even had a fire go out of the heater. It's kept coals in it and a fire going constantly. That is unheard of in the South. But hopefully after today, maybe tomorrow, it could be today or tomorrow. I don't remember. It's been a while since I checked. But maybe our cold, freezing temperatures will be over and we'll be able to get back to more normal stuff like in the 40s and 50s for the lows. But guys, I wanted to just take a moment today and I want to think about everything we've been going through. All this, people's called it everything in the world. It's been called Snowmageddon and, you know, all kinds of things. You know, the apocalypse and all kinds of stuff. You know, the world is frozen over and things of this nature. Guys, it has been quite a precedented time for us. There's been some things that's upset me about it. There's been some things that I expected. I guess the thing that upsets me the worst is the fact that the powers to be did not even step up to the plate until way after the game was over. You know what I mean? That's the part that got me. Usually they declare something a disaster or something like this so FEMA can get rolling and stuff of this nature, but it's like they haven't showed any interest in it. Even in the midst of all of it. And I don't know if it's because it was mainly the state of Texas that got hit really bad, but it wasn't just Texas. We got friends in Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, you know, Missouri, all up through these places up there, the Dakotas. I mean, everywhere that just Iowa, Idaho, all these places got inundated and it seemed like nobody cared. You know, that kind of ticked me off a little bit. But, you know, people are pretty resilient. And if you've prepared for these things, then you probably were more fortunate than most. Let's just say that. Because a lot of people have scoffed and laughed at preppers for so long that maybe, just maybe, this has opened their eyes somewhat. And I'm not saying that it did, but you've always got those people that says, oh, well, it'll all get better with time, you know, and sometimes time does make things get better. But the bottom line is this, according to some of the agricultural reports I'm seeing, some of the things, now you can't trust every agricultural report that you see. Let me say that. Because in 2019, we had a lot of devastating floods and stuff like that took place, and the agricultural department put out that that over, I forgot what the percentage was now, these crops were planted. That was a half truth, because yes, they were planted, but no, they were not planted to harvest. They were planted for insurance purposes. They actually took planes and flew over the flooded grounds, and they done what was called jet propel the seeds into the soil. They blasted them down into the soil where they would sink up under the soil and they would sprout and try to come up, but they were not ever going to do anything. And they knew that, but they could not get their insurance money unless they were able to plant. And then it went down in the agriculture department. Well, this much of the United States agricultural land was planted. That was a half truth. There was nothing ever intended to be harvested from that. And we ended up with a deficit of food that year. Well, then comes along 2020. With 2020, because of the CV problem, we ended up with a huge deficit of food again. And we've had 2 years of deficits of food. And here we are in 2021. Now we've had a massive ice storm system that's come through this part of the country and wiped out, they're saying, between 20 and 30% of the crops already, the wheat and stuff like that. There was winter wheat and stuff. You know, I don't know exactly just yet because they're not coming out with numbers. All you have is those who are saying, oh, I've lost my place. You know, I've lost this, I've lost that. It's coming out. And now we are making deals to sell our grains and stuff like this. We're not even going to have enough food to feed our livestock, or much less feed ourselves hardly. Well, guys, today, what would you think if I said, what if my plants could talk? How would you feel about a plant that could talk? How would you feel about a plant that could tell you if it was thirsty? How would you feel about a plant that could tell you if it needed nutrition? And what kind of nutrition? How would you feel about a plant that could tell you it's a little dry where I'm at? How would you feel about that? How would that make you feel? It should scare the devil out of you. But let me tell you something. It's here. It's already being done. There is plants now that has nanotechnology in them in the fields that can notify the farmer as to their conditions. Now, I haven't been able to go too deep into this just yet to see just how far this nanotechnology can go. Does it stay in the plant once it's cooked, and when you ingest it, does it go into your body? And can something be done from that point? I do not know. But I know the technology is out there and it is being used now so that plants can talk back to the people who have them planted. Supposedly, this is going to help solve a lot of our agricultural problems. And guys, it just freaks me out to think that there's plants that can talk. I don't know if I like that or not. Some technology is good. When tractors were invented and man didn't have to use the old mules and stuff anymore, he could do more. And you know, that was an advancement. And when man began to make more mechanized equipment where he could plant more, easier, could cover more ground, yeah, that was pretty good stuff. But when we come along and we come up with Roundup ready stuff, so that when crops come up, you can spray them with the Roundup and it won't kill the plant, but it'll kill all the grass, that's gone a little too far. Genetically modified stuff, that's gone a little too far when you tamper with the DNA of something. And y'all watch one of my other videos, of my potato videos, I talked about the gentleman who invented the Simplot potato, how that he really regrets having done that now. But yet it's out there, and if you eat at McDonald's or I've been told McDonald's, now I've seen some information on that, and a lot of other fast food places, that's what you're eating is a Simplot genetically modified potato. But guys, we are in some very dangerous times. Our food system, it's not that, let me say this, It's not that there's not food. There has been plenty of food. The problem in 2020 was a disruption in the food supply. Farmers were digging giant holes, pushing their produce off into these giant holes and just burying it. They were, it was horrible. Animals were slaughtered by the hundreds of thousands because there was no one to process them. Even to this day, I have you guys are actually sending me messages telling me, Danny, if you plan on getting anything butchered, you better get in line because it's going to be 2021, way late in 2021 or 2022 before we can get our animals butchered. Well, I mean, let's just face it. I mean, if I had to do that, I would just butcher it myself. I mean, I'm not going to lie about it. I've butchered cows, I've butchered hogs, chickens, pigs, I mean, deer, all of it. I've done it all. And I wouldn't hesitate at all to butcher my own. But there are people who have to take it somewhere, and I understand that. As a matter of fact, if I can, I take mine to a plant right down the road from us here. The young lady that runs it, very dear friend of mine. She was my right hand when my wife had cancer before she passed away, and she's just a great lady. Has a great business going on. Wanda and I use her all the time for our butchering and stuff like that if we don't have time to do it ourselves. And I highly recommend that you keep a good relationship with your butcher, because that's how you find out if there's deals on, if you can't afford to raise your animals, if there's deals on meat or anything like this, you find out, what's the timeline to get something done. You can get in line, things of this nature. But guys, it's some scary times right now. And what bothers me, I gotta watch what I say, and it's really irritating me to have to watch what comes out of my mouth, because everybody's like, oh, that's hate speech, or that's, that's not politically correct, and people on here correct me all the time. They're like, oh, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't say that, that's not Christian, God plays no part in all this stuff, okay? I hate to say that, but God doesn't play a part in whether or not I slaughter an animal or anything out here. God could care less about that. That's between me and the animal, And I just get so frustrated with people who want to inject God into stuff that God, He leaves some things to just us. And it's just ridiculous to me. But it is just getting to be very, very some very unusual times that we're living in. I'm afraid that in the very near future, how to say this, with just the stroke of a pen, our right to burn wood to heat our homes could be done away with because of carbon emissions. Maybe we have to purchase a new type of wood burning stove or heater that has a catalyst system on it, that has a filter that won't let this into the atmosphere because, oh my God, it's destroying the ozone, whatever. One trip in somebody's private jet burns more carbon into the atmosphere probably than thousands of wood heaters would, But I'm sitting back thinking, all it takes is the stroke of a pen, and this can become illegal. As a matter of fact, it is illegal in some states, and in some cities. I would move. I am not so hooked on where I'm living that if something like that was to take place and take that freedom away from me, I would leave in a heartbeat. I don't care. I'm not that attached to nothing I've got. Or nobody, let me put it that way. I guess I'm different than other people, but I would immediately start looking for a place. Not to say, let me say this, Not to say that with a stroke of a pen, it could be nationwide. And then I probably would go to jail. I'm just not going to lie to you. Because there's just some things I'm just probably not going to comply with. And it's not because I'm trying to be rebellious or anything. I just feel like that there's some things that's just downright stupidity. I mean, you can't fix stupid. I don't care what you do, you can't fix stupid. And guys, I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but in the same text, I guess I am trying to be funny because it is totally ludicrous. I mean, since I've gone back and I've started looking at life in the 17 and 1800s, how they heated, how they built homes, how they built barns, how they cooked, how they dressed, all this kind of stuff, I almost regret that I'm in my 60s. I almost would say, Lord, why didn't you show me this when I was in my 30s? Where I could have built the kind of barns that would have withstood what we're facing, or the kind of home that would have been easy to heat, you know, I mean, and had the knowledge that these people had. These people were so much smarter than we are now, it ain't even funny. Now, they may not have had the technological intelligence, but the survivability of these people from the 17 and 1800s was it surpassed anything we have today. And I'm doing, I mean, I may be 60-something years old, but I'm doing my best to soak up as much of that stuff into me as I can. And to be able to maybe portray it over here on YouTube. Some of the things that I learned. Maybe show some videos doing some things that I've learned. I mean, some things have changed in history. Now, don't get me wrong. Where I live at here in the Deep South, termites eat up everything. I mean, it's just horrendous. I mean, you throw a board on the ground in 3 days, it's just full of termites. You know, it's just bad. Telephone companies have gone around and changed out the creosote light poles and put in a new treated type of light pole that termites won't mess with because they were eating the creosote ones. Especially in areas where the soil was very sandy, like it is where I live at here. Our forefathers didn't worry so much about this because back then there was an ample supply of what was called the old virgin longleaf timber that grew in this land down here. And it made a fat pine lighter that termites just didn't eat. A lot of the homes were built out of it. As a matter of fact, a lot of the piers under the old log homes were big old chunks of fat pine lighter just sitting there and the house was resting upon them. They would never rot. I mean, the stuff can sit there 100,000 years. It will not rot. Termites won't eat it because it has such a high rosin content in it. You know, they had these things. People in the Appalachians up in there, they had the old chestnut trees. Then the blights came and wiped out all the chestnuts, and now they don't have that old-fashioned lumber that they made those log cabins out of that lasted for hundreds of years. You know, all we have now is second and third growth stuff, very wide-grained material stuff that'll rot and carpenter bees bore all into, and you know, this kind of stuff. I mean, we don't have the materials that our forefathers had because we have ravished the land, we have ruined our countrysides, we've overproduced the wood. I've been looking at the redwood forest the sequoia redwoods out in California, how that in just a matter of less than a decade, the vast sequoia forests in California was almost wiped out until a law was passed forbidding any more cutting of the redwood trees. And even though the law was passed, people still done it until they just literally had to come in and make it a mandatory thing to stop killing these big, giant, beautiful trees just for the wood. Where I live at today, the elderly ladies that I bought my land from, used to speak about the timber that was on this land when they were little girls. Now, they were in their late 90s whenever I bought my land, and that was that was 30-something years ago. But they would tell me about the trees that were here, the big virgin pines that were 3 and 5 foot in diameter, and some of them larger than that. You know, I can only imagine what it was like to have seen that. I spoke with some of the old men that my dad bought his land from. And they talked about, they were in their 90s, and they talked about how that you could hook up a team in a wagon, and the horses could pull the wagon anywhere through the woods that you wanted to go. And you could get off and pick up what they call fat pine lighter knots to take back to the home to burn in the fireplace. They said there were no bushes under the trees. It was just pine straw as far as the eye could see. You could take a wagon and go anywhere. You could walk across creeks and stuff like that. It was just what I would have given to have seen the country in that shape. But today, we've decimated our country. We've destroyed our land. Not through burning wood fireplaces and wood heaters, but through chemicals and through technology. This is how we've destroyed our land. Our rivers have been polluted because of giant plants have been put on our rivers and dumped tons of toxins into the rivers. Dioxins and all these type things have been, this is how antifreeze was discovered. Propylene glycol or ethylene glycol was discovered because the rivers wasn't freezing around these plants, and they realized they were dumping the ethylene glycol into the rivers, and that's where antifreeze was discovered from. I mean, and now if you pick up any wildlife magazine anywhere that's put out by a state, they tell you in that book, especially in Mississippi here, you're only allowed to eat 1 or 2 fish per month from such and such rivers because of the mercury poisoning, or because of the dioxin poisoning, or because of some other ungodly chemical that's been released from these power plants and timber plants and all this kind of stuff into the water. It's poisoned our waterways. Even the Bible talks about it. The Bible talks about there will come a period in time where the waters will become bitter and man will drink of them and it will kill 1/3 of the population. Guys, we're getting there. We're polluting. All farmland is being sprayed with Roundup everywhere. And to keep grass out of crops and things to this nature. And we're polluting our land. And where I live at down here, it's just what I would give to have 100 acres or whatever so I could grow my own hay, is to find hay that hasn't been sprayed with Grazon or Remedy or 4D or something to keep the weeds out, because people are so picky. I just don't want no weeds in my hay. Get Dexter cows then. Dexters is what we raise. Dexters eat weeds, they eat bushes, they eat all kind of junk, and they thrive just fine. But no, we have poisoned all of our land. You buy a piece of property around here now and it's pasture land, you're not going to grow any vegetables on it because it's had Grazon and all sprayed on it for so many years until you can't grow anything on it. You can only grow a monocot, which is corn or grass, until you pull enough of it out of the soil till it's not toxic no more. I mean, guys, it's no wonder that they're trying to create plants that can talk. Because these plants have DNA bred into them to withstand all this stuff, because man's polluted everything. God never intended for us to do this to the world. This is why I believe He's going to have to come back, and He's going to have to renovate this earth, because man's going to have destroyed it so bad with radioactive nuclear waste and everything else that he's put into the soil, all the garbage dumps he's dumped into the oceans, and all the stuff that's been sunk into the oceans, the nuclear plants like Fukushima that's still poisoning the ocean, Chernobyl that's still poisoning, our own nuclear plants is poisoning the waterways. What is the answer, guys? The answer is to go back into the old ways. Now, I'm not talking about horses and buggies. I'm talking about just living life simple without the chemicals, without all the carbon footprint that we're trying to make on the earth. It's gotten so bad now that we're talking about printed meat. Printed meat. I have watched it happen. Guys, how sickening can that be? There are places out here, KFC, all these kind of places are using some printed meat stuff now. I'm like, oh my word. I won't eat out at all. I just virtually, unless I know the restaurant and I know where the food come from, I just about won't go. I just boycott them if at all possible, because I just don't feel safe eating food from places like this. I used to go to cafes a lot because I used to love the old good home cooked meals in a cafe. But I don't do it anymore because now all you see is a Cisco truck backed up to them or something like this, delivering the food, and only God knows where that food come from. Half of it may not even be real. Everything now has got fillers of all kinds in it, natural flavorings and all these types of things in it. Nothing is really fit to be eaten anymore. It's amazing to me what we've done. No wonder we've raised a generation of young people that stay sick all the time, who have all types of physical issues. Look what we've had. Look what they have to eat all the time. Junk. The body was never intended to take in synthetic products. The body is only designed to assimilate organic products. And that is why so many of the medicines today are all synthetic. And that's why you take this medicine for a problem, and then you have to take this medicine to combat that medicine, and you got to take another one to combat that one over there because of what it's doing to the body. And before you know it, you got 5 to 10 different medicines you got to take because this one's doing this and that one's doing that one. You're just trying to combat all this stuff. Total ignorance. And then on top of that, we don't even make our own medicine. How crazy is that? Who in the world come up with a thought, let your enemy make your medicine? That's a wise thing to do. We got some of the stupidest people running this world, I swear. Guys, sometimes I just want to go somewhere and just scream, because I'm like, why can't we see what's happening and stop it? The whole world sits back and lets a handful of people run everything. And I don't get it. I don't get it. I guess that's why I don't comply very well. I just about refuse. And I hate to say this, there may come a point that I may get CV, I don't know. If I do, I'll probably die. There's no doubt about it. With my heart condition, and sometimes I have problems with my breathing and stuff, I probably would be one of the casualties. But, all of us have a time and a place that we have to go. The Lord I believe has our number. And we're not going to go till he gets ready for us to go. I believe that. Now, I do believe you can shorten your time. If you get out here and drive a car at 100 miles an hour all the time up and down the road, I think you're tampering with death. I don't think God has anything to do with that. I feel like that sometimes we just tempt God with our lives. And sometimes God just lets us go and says, you know what, let them do what they're going to do. But guys, today, plants can talk. It has happened. Plants can talk. Do the research. It's out there. I don't spend time putting all these links and stuff and all that, because that's one thing I really don't like is when people put links in my stuff. You know, I mean, I like to find my own information out. And there's good channels out there that do put in their links and stuff like that. You'll be able to find them. They're out there because they have a lot more time than I have to put into this kind of stuff. I'm trying to make a living on my homestead here. I'm trying to survive and stay out of grocery stores and raise my animals and stay healthy enough to at least do what I need to do. I don't have a lot of time to spend in front of videos and on computers and things like that. What time I get to spend is usually between 3 and 5 o'clock in the morning and after 8 o'clock at night before I go to bed. That's about the limit of my time. A couple of times I might come in for dinner during the day, and while Wanda fixes me something to eat, getting dinner ready, I might sit down for 15-20 minutes and run through the internet and try to answer a few questions or do some stuff. But I'm frantically trying my best right now to get us set up for what's coming. And guys, I would encourage each and every one of you to do the same thing. Make sure you're prepared in every way possible. And I have some more videos coming up about being prepared, about some things that we need to look into. I have one I'm trying to get ready to make about the canning jars and some stuff like that I didn't know until I found out, and it explains a few things to me. But we're going to try to get those videos made. We're going to try to get some more greenhouse videos made and stuff like that, some high tone videos made, some GreenStalk videos made, try to let you see what we're doing, when we're doing it, how we're doing it. Over on Patreon, we share a lot of this stuff with our patrons long before we ever get it to YouTube. They get firsthand information on a daily basis over there about what we're doing here. And that's because we can throw up something really quick there. We don't have to make a big video over there. And we got a lot of really good people on Patreon. I have to say that. Really good people. But anyway, guys, I got to get off of here. It's 45 degrees still in here. I'm cold. And I didn't bring my jacket over here because I thought I could just sit out on the porch where it's like 50 degrees or 55 degrees. And I thought I could, but the wind is just screaming out there. And so I had to come inside the cabin. And I got to get out of here where I can get warmed up. Guys, thank you. We appreciate each and every one of you. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. We would appreciate that. Hit the like button. All these things that you do helps us out because it puts us in an algorithm that lets our videos get put out by YouTube, and we can reach more people for the coming situations that our country faces, and it gives us an opportunity to share the Lord with more and more people on a daily basis. Thank you guys from Deep South Homestead.